Accessibility Advisory Committee. We'll start with member introductions. I think we got a couple people online too. We'll do the room first and then get to folks online. You want to go first, Carrie?
Carrie Shulman, representing Precinct G.
Kevin Petrie, Reporting Secretary.
Patty Thorson, Trellis.
David Fenley, Chair.
Julie Sellner, Metro Mobility. Patsy Murphy, Precinct C.
Heidi Meyer, Minnesota CCD.
Doug Cook, Metro Transit.
Claudia Bewley, MNCCD.
And online?
I believe we have online people.
I think we do. I think we have at least 2 folks online. We will wait for that to get loaded up. We do.
Oh, there.
All right. Take it away, Ken. We cannot hear you, Ken.
Chris Lightfield, AARP.
Thank you very much.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. This is Ken Rogers, Precinct D. And I just FYI, the sound is very, very echoey today. It's really hard to understand people speaking.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Okay. We will, can you hear me a little better now that I lean into the mic and speak up?
Yes, it's much better. Much
Okay.
better.
We will do our best to lean into the mics. We are 1 short of quorum, so we will skip the approval of the agenda and the minutes. I will read the Dakota Water, Land, and People Acknowledgement. The Metropolitan Council acknowledges that the land we currently call Minnesota, and specifically the 7-county region, is the ancestral homeland of the Dakota Oyote, who are present and active contributors to our thriving region. As part of the Metropolitan Council's commitment to address the unresolved legacy of genocide, dispossession, and settler colonialism, and the fact that government institutions, including the Metropolitan Council, benefited economically, politically, and institutionally after the forcible removal of the Dakota Oyote, the Metropolitan Council is dedicated to instilling land, water, and people commitments in regional policy. These commitments support the Dakota Oyote, the 11 federally recognized tribes in Minnesota, Ho-Chunk Nation, and the American Indian communities representing over 150 diverse tribal nations that call the 7-county region home. All right.
We have a new person.
Did we get a new person joining online, or did
Him.
Chris just turn your camera on?
Yeah, I just turned my camera on.
Cool. Thank you. All right, let's dive into the legislative update. I think I saw, yay. Welcome back. Thank you for coming.
Hi, thank you, Chair, for the invitation, and hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Pallmeyer. I am the Government Affairs Manager here at the Met Council, and it's been a bit since I've been here, so good to see you all. I use she, her pronouns, and just again, thank you for the time today. So the legislature has about a week and a half to complete their work for this year. For those of you who have heard my kind of overview before, the Minnesota legislature does their work in a 2-year, known as a biennium process. And the first year of the biennium is where the legislature sets the state's budget for the next 2 years. So that happened last year. That happens in the odd years. So the 2025 legislative session set the budget for the state for fiscal years 26 and 27. And then the even years of the biennium, which we are in now, is an opportunity for the legislature to discuss a variety of topics. They can, but do not have to do, they could discuss a supplemental budget for the state. They can discuss and take up a variety of policy initiatives, and they can also discuss and possibly pass a bonding bill. So I figure I'll just kind of walk through where a few of those things are at today. The legislature, usually the second year of the biennium, again this year, is usually seen as a shorter legislative session. Generally, the budget setting years or the odd years are January through May. And then this year, the session started in mid-February. And the Constitution requires that the legislature adjourn by May 18th, which is 2 Mondays from now. So again, about a week and a half to go. So the legislature, as I said, could pass a supplemental budget, and that could be about kind of specific areas of the legislature that the legislature could choose to focus on. And they do that budgeting based on what's called a budget forecast. The state's management and budget team does a budget forecast twice a year in November and in February that looks at, based on what the state projected to get in terms of revenue and in terms of spending, and then they adjust that a few times throughout the year. So the most recent update to that forecast came out in the end of February, and those are the numbers then that the state, that the legislature can use to determine if they would like to do a supplemental budget. So supplemental budgets often kind of happen in omnibus bills, not always happen in omnibus bills. And an omnibus bill is just when a variety of things related to the same topic get put into one bill so that they can be considered as a package as opposed to being considered kind of every bill one by one. In the Senate, there is a transportation omnibus bill. There are 2 small things in that bill related to the Metropolitan Council. One is a requirement for the council to provide a grant to a local transportation management organization. And the other is a requirement for the council to coordinate with Hennepin County on an upcoming road construction project. The House at this point does not have an omnibus transportation bill, so it kind of remains to be seen what happens in the next week and a half to see if anything will pass in that space. In terms of a bonding bill, bonding bills are when the state borrows money to pay for capital projects. Because it is borrowing of funds, it requires more than a normal bill to pass. Most bills require just a simple majority to pass in both bodies. A bonding bill requires 60% plus 1 to pass, and so it requires a lot of collaboration between the House and the Senate and between the various political parties. At this point, it remains to be seen if the legislature will pass a bonding bill. Oftentimes, the bonding bill is one of the last bills that does pass in a year, so we will kind of wait and see what happens again in the next week and a half to see if there are, if there is a way for the legislature to get to an agreement on that with enough votes to pass that bill. And then in terms of policy provisions, the Met Council did propose one policy bill this year in the transportation space, and the bill would apply, it's a public safety bill, so the bill would apply the enhanced penalties that are currently in state law when someone assaults a transit operator, so someone who operates a bus or a light rail vehicle, and it would expand that to other transit workers. So currently in state law, assaults against transit workers are charged at a higher level than assaults against me just walking down the street, for example. And because the council has invested in expanded presence on our transit system with community service officers, with transit rider investment program or TRIP agents. You might see facilities and maintenance staff out on the systems. We want to make sure that all of our staff are equally protected by state law. So this doesn't create a new crime, it just kind of puts everybody at the same level that transit operators are currently at in state law if someone gets assaulted on the system. We were able to get hearings on this bill in both the House and the Senate. In the House, the bill was heard and passed by the Transportation Committee and was sent to the Public Safety Committee. And then in the Senate, the bill was passed out of the Transportation Committee and also passed out of the Judiciary Committee. I don't know, again, there's very limited time left, so I don't know if this bill is going to make it across the finish line this year, but I think it's an important initiative that we've been working on this year at the Capitol. So wanted to bring that to your attention. Otherwise, as I said, there's just a lot of unknowns in the next week and a half about what will happen. And so they do have until May 18th to complete their work, and we will be closely monitoring and participating in any conversations until then. And obviously happy to, I will be out of town for your June meeting, but happy to prepare information about bills that pass that might be of interest to this committee that I could share with you in writing. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to take any questions if you have time for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. Do any members have questions? Go ahead, Heidi.
I have seen an increase downtown St. Paul for like on the, mostly on the central line, and the policemen's, you know, where one side's the train and the other side's buses. And I've seen some policemen's, you know, off and on, and then I've seen them, you know, on the platforms, you know, making sure. So it is kind of working. It's just how do we get that bill passed so they can get to say, you know, if anything does happen, you know. So you can go back and tell them that they're out there doing what they're supposed to. And at times they're interacting with them and talking to them and getting to know the community. So they're not just saying you're a bad person or you're a good person, whatever. It's kind of like they're getting to know the community. So if you could pass that back, that'd be great that it's working, you know, or kind of helping.
Thank you so much for that feedback. I appreciate it.
What transit operator in the Senate omnibus is the money directed towards?
Mr. Chair, in the Senate omnibus, the money is directed towards the 494 Corridor Coalition, which is a TMO, a transit management organization based in the Southwestern Metro.
Thank you. Any other questions from members? Thank you for joining us. Looking forward to the written update during your well-deserved vacation, I would imagine, after session ends. So thank you, Hannah, for joining us. We appreciate your being here.
Thank you for the invitation, and hope the rest of your meeting goes well.
Me too. All right, who is next? We have council website update. I'm guessing Chelsey is in the room because somebody is standing up.
How do I advance the slides? I saw them come up for a second there.
Oh, he will. We have a man behind the curtain who hopefully will bring them up.
She needs to be on this side. You need to sit over here.
I need to sit over here. Okay.
You don't want to sit over here.
On this side. Okay, great.
Use this. If it doesn't work, just mask advance and I'll do it.
All right, great. Thank you so much for having us here. My name is Chelsey Mona. I work for a company called Clockwork. We've been working with the Metropolitan Council on reimagining the website and modernizing it so that it's really serving all of the users.
Oh.
Was there a question?
Perfect. Can you lean into the mic just a little bit? That is perfect right there.
Got it. Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you. I've never done this before, so. And so we really appreciate you having some time to spend with us. We want to understand a little bit more about the experience that you all have, that you've heard from your constituents, the folks that you're serving, as we think about what this new experience might be like. Because we want to make sure that it's serving everybody well. Okay, there we go. So particularly, we would love your thoughts and feedback around Metro Mobility, but if there's any other part of the site that you have had some experiences with, we'd love to hear that. So we'll have a list of some questions we're going to run through as we start to think about what does that experience look like. We want to make sure that everything we're putting together is really going to support you all, the communities you represent. And we've heard there's some challenges with the current site, so we want to make sure that those things are resolved. All right, so some initial questions around the current experience. When we think about your access to the current site, any of the places that you have visited on Metro Mobility, what are some of the main goals for folks when they're visiting the site?
That's a question to us.
Yeah.
So main goals when visiting the site, just specifically on Metro Mobility?
Metro Mobility specifically.
Okay.
Yes.
I would say that I know that there's a place to report complaints so that problems can be addressed. And I know it's on the site. Every time I see it, every time I look for it, I should say, I find myself scrolling down to find it. And a couple of thoughts come to my mind. One, the target audience of the website probably, well, I'll speak for myself. I've used the system for a while, and so I know the basics. I know that if I need to know or have a refresher, all the information is there. And so as an existing customer, sometimes I'm going through too much interjectory information. I don't want to get rid of that because it's necessary. But I sort of want to get to where can I not just complain, but provide the feedback that Julie and others need to address problems.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Heidi, go ahead.
Me and my friend, we were wanting to do the on-call thing where you get a phone call 5 minutes before the appointment. And we were trying to find it on the website because they kept telling, because I came here, before the meeting and asked the lady that works for Metro Mobility. One of them came out and they told us how to do it. I thought I understood, and it was very difficult. And we find it, it's kind of like it's two different separate entities to do this strange thing. And so then we call back to make sure, and he really likes that 5 minute, even if you come 15, 20 minutes late, it's still, he's down there, he's doing what he's doing and going where he needs to go. But it was so complicated just to set it up. And I've noticed sometimes in the website, it's hard to just find basic information, when you type it in, you're thinking, and then you're going here, you're going there, and so it's not like straightforward. It's kind of like you have to understand how it operates, But I'm not on that side of the street. I'm on the other side trying to figure out how to catch Metro Mobility just using the website.
Mm-hmm.
So
great.
if you can clean that up a little, when we type in certain things that leads us to the right thing. Or maybe I'm on the right thing, but the person doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Because it got to make sense to follow what they're thinking. Thank you.
Yeah, that's helpful feedback. Thank you. Other thoughts? Yes.
Ken, I've
Mind
got a
if I
question.
interject? You might have already gotten my opinion in the past, but I really like how we have it organized that each tab clarifies, but the amount of information on each tab, they have to go through the tab to find the form to complete. It'd be nice to have an extra tab where the forms are listed so people can pull up a standing order request or the onboard timetable, or make it more simplistic to locate the forms that are on each section of the website. So a good example would be eligibility. On that particular one, we're able to go down and download the application that needs to be completed. But it's about midway down over on the right-hand side. And this is what I spend my day on phone calls, explaining what tab to go to, where to find that form, how far down they have to go. So a forms tab may assist with that, and our clients being able to locate things a little bit easier.
And that goes back to what I was trying to say. We're both connecting.
Mm-hmm. And with the forms, is that format of the form a challenge? Or does that work well?
Yeah, I would very much like to be involved to ensure we get the updated forms on there, because I think we're still downloading the 2023 application.
Okay,
So
that's
we'd like
good
to
to
see
know.
those updated. It's wonderful to have your contact info. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Did I hear somebody online?
Yep, this is Ken.
Oh, go ahead.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Chelsey, again, thank you for being here to present prior to you actually doing your work on the website. I have two comments that I hope will be helpful for you. As a screen reader, I get additional information when I land on a website that really is helpful to me. And I want to just share this with you. I think this speaks directly to what Julie just said and what Heidi just said. It relates to the ease of access on the site itself. So when I land on the Metropolitan Council main website, I get a message that tells me there are 9 regions on this page, there are 8 headings on this page, and there are 65 links on this page. Now, that's a huge amount of content to have to kind of mull through to find what I need. I can go to regions and look for the general topic. I can go to headings and try and narrow it down that way. But 65 links on a page, that's an immense amount of data that someone has to read and figure out, is that where I want to go? That's a lot of text on the page. And I don't know visually how it looks. I just know how my screen reader reads it to me. And it's quite complex. And I don't know how someone that has ADHD or cognitive issues can struggle through all that content to find what it is that they need. On the Metro Mobility website, there's 10 regions, 15 headings, and 73 links. Again, that's a huge amount of links and headings to have to go through to find what it is that you're looking for. And I know there are search engines included on those pages, and one can type in what they're looking for to help narrow it down. But visually, this is very, very busy. I just want to share that to help you as you look to kind of condense some of this material and put it in a much simpler way to visually present this information.
That's helpful. Thank you.
I have one more question.
Yes, go ahead, Heidi.
I have one more question, and my question is, because I was born with processing problems, I'll admit it. And so for people who need things in a certain way, it makes it kind of like Ken was saying, there's a lot to soak in, and then I have to figure out, is there an A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3 way of handling this? How do we tackle it? And how do you teach somebody who's a first timer using the city bus, the Metro Mobility, whatever website for transportation? We need to make both sides friendly because they kind of go together. Because sometimes it says you can take the city bus or you can take Metro if you're qualified. So how do we make all of this kind of friendly user so the first timer can understand what I'm trying to say or you're trying to teach instead of being like, I'm confused? Because it doesn't understand certain concepts, So, and right now I'm doing for the U of M for ICI, I don't know if you know what they are, but they are doing plain language and trying to make it as simple, but still you have to use certain language, I understand that, but make it so different community people can understand it because everyone sees it differently. So Ken's idea might work, my idea and someone else's idea might work, and can we come to the table and make it? So if all of us were going to go to the website, we can say, yeah, I get what you're saying, and oh yeah, I get what you're saying, and that means you accomplished something if you're getting that kind of reaction. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
You're getting all of your questions answered at once, not
I
one
love
at a
it.
time.
That's great. Not a problem. So I've heard a number of pain points. Are there any things that are working well for you all right now that we want to make sure we retain?
Nobody thinks about things when they work well.
I think the website, as far as organization of the information under each topic, is very well put together.
Okay.
And I think every information that a client needs is on there, but they do need the time to search it out, to find it, and to understand the system well enough to know which tab to use. But I think the tabs that are currently being used are pretty self-explanatory, and that's helped a lot of people. Another really positive thing that I find is no matter what search engine you use, and again, I'm walking people over the phone through this on how to get to our website. No matter what search engine they're using, I have them enter in Metro Mobility. It's the first thing that pops up as our homepage.
That's great.
And that's perfect, especially when you're dealing with people over the phone. So those are the things that I like about it.
Great, thank you.
And it is good, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It is good to know that, I mean, I was criticizing the introductory aspects of the website, but it is really good to know that, okay, if I'm thinking I've forgotten X, Y, and Z, it is very clearly, it's all there, which helps.
Good.
Was there a comment online? Ken or Chris? Thought I heard somebody chime in. Anybody else in the room? What works well?
It works well because they thought about it and it works, well, I'm not saying it's working well, but what I'm trying to say is that you have a site, and I appreciate that, and you're willing to put the effort to come here today and talk about cleaning it up. And you're willing to try new ideas. So that I think is working well in the sense that you're seeing that you got some problems, or you're not just leaving us hanging where we're always trying to go, they're never going to listen to us. We don't matter, but we do matter because we have to use that sometimes in order to, teach and figure out things or look at maps or anything that you sent an email if they said there's an update and the website explains it very well. So I appreciate that a lot.
Great. Well, I think that might be a good segue. We've talked quite a bit about where folks get stuck, barriers, but I would love to think a little bit about the ideal future state. So when we think about, we go a number of months into the future and we have redesigned the website, it's out there, it's available. If it worked perfectly, what might that look like? Or if there are one or two things that you think would make it significantly better, I'd love to hear some thoughts on that.
Ideal world, folks. Perfect website. Now's your chance.
Perfect website. Well, Ken will get what he wants and I get what I want, but
Would it be okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Julie.
3 things to improve. The only other thing that I would suggest is that there would be a tab for new riders. Your basic things, what the fare, just kind of condense that rider's guide so that we have the quick cheats to help people use the system more effectively, the 30-minute pickup window, the fare type, those kind of things of what they expect. If they're going to a doctor, please provide an appointment time to the reservation so we get you there on time.
And isn't
that beginner basics.
Heidi.
And to play off of her, it's not just newbies, but reminders. It's, like we can say it's on the website, we're not just making this up, it's real. This is how Metro runs, so, and it doesn't, and you can argue, because there are people, well, my driver doesn't, and it's like, well, they're supposed to. And also the other would be really cool, because we used to do this, and some of the people on this committee were a part of it, and Ken was too, videos. We had some really good teaching videos for the drivers and stuff, but how about on the website? Like, if I'm a newbie, a nice little video would be nice to watch, going, someone coming in and tapping and what the driver's supposed to do, ABCs and 1, 2, 3s would be really cool. We've never had anything like that. It's all reading and you get blind, a lot of words. So sometimes you get lost.
With the video, it's showing that experience. So here's how you tap in, here's what it looks like so people know what to expect. Is that what you're, or you
we've
just
done
video
a video where we were teaching the drivers, first you have to do this and then you have to do that so they can kind of learn. And we were the trainers, and they, and this is back in the early 2000s we did this. And it helped the newbies who were new drivers, to learn, like, I'm getting, we did one with wheelchairs, we did one like me, and they videotaped me showing my ID and stuff. So, and then they interviewed us and our experience and how do we feel being on it, So different ways of learning. It's not all just words and a few pictures. Sometimes someone needs real live stuff to understand, like I YouTube a lot, some of my ideas and thoughts. So can you have a video or two I don't know if that eats into your costs of what the site can handle, but something to think about.
Yeah,
Thank
helpful.
you.
Any other members or anybody else, really? I know that Julie probably interacts with this a lot.
Heidi's, I really like
Yeah,
the
that's a good
idea of the
idea.
video, but instead of a driver trainer, what the new passenger can do expect. You can be
That's
asked
what
for
I
your
want to
ID. Drivers do not have change if you're paying cash. Things for them to expect the first time they use it so that it's not so intimidating.
Would it help to have 1, 2, 3, 4, I have I'm not feeling articulate in my head, but that what you need to do in the order that it needs to be done.
I understand what you're trying to say.
Good.
Is it okay if I try to elaborate?
Good,
And
yes.
correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
okay? For instance, when you board the vehicle, the driver's going to ask for ID. This is how you pay for your fares. You can either use a go-to card and tag it on the electronic device or pay the driver directly. Is that what you're talking about, those first steps?
Even, just having things labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. I know sometimes I have difficulty when I'm trying to do sequences of things, and I get overwhelmed by all of the information. And it's not because I'm dense some days, but not usually. So, yeah.
If they use the lift, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so we've made some videos for Metro Transit, basically how to ride videos, how to ride the light rail, things like that. And I think it's a great idea because there's different kinds of learners out there. And so it kind of hits those little marks. One thing to keep in mind if you are going to do that is make sure that your language is consistent. Because sometimes we forget that when we're doing a video versus just text. So,
Can you tell me what you mean by consistent language? You mean if we have
we're talking plain language, make sure we're using that also in the video.
Got it.
Sometimes we flip into our own little mode of, this is how we talk in transit or whatever.
I see.
Yep.
Thank you.
And this has been talked about when we do videos. Also make sure that, like Ken and other people who are low vision or can't see or process different, that it kind of explains what's going on. So if they really want to use Metro Mobility, and they should, and they're qualified, then everybody gets the experience, not just one half of the group gets the experience. But you make it so it has I can have closed caption, or I can have it where they kind of spell out certain things on the screen. So the person who's learning, so if I have to send them, if they say what's on the website, you can learn from that, then I got options to do that if it's built into the website and also built into the videos. Thank you.
Let's go ahead, Patsy.
I would add to what Julie and Patty were saying. On that tab for the new riders, is to even go back further on it to starting with how to do scheduling of your ride. Because there's a couple different companies, trying to figure out how is your right company, what's the phone number. Kind of like what Julie said of if it's just going to the grocery store, that's one thing. But if it's an appointment, make sure you tell us what time you need to be there for your appointment. So even one step before the walking onto the van.
Yeah, tips and tricks.
But how to schedule your ride. And those different things that are necessary for that.
Thank you.
Do we have to talk about, because I know some people on this committee that use the website to schedule, I think it's the website where they schedule. I got to see it for the first time Carrie was doing it on her phone, and I learned, I've never seen it where, okay, you got where I can call on the phone, that's one idea, and then you got where you can do it online, and do it that way. So are you going to make that very clear that they're separated? Because when you call up on the phone, it kind of doesn't say it's Metro Mobility, it kind of says, you can do these things, and then for Metro Mobility, press 1 if you want to talk to somebody, So are you going to do that on the website, and make those two kind of clear? Because what we're talking about could be used on both ends. Everything we said today could be for the website, where you can schedule a ride and then go through all the different steps. And then also calling up, doing the beginning part, and then all the other things we talked about. Because there's two entities that make this work. The order to do all the other things like, can I go to that county and can I do this? And what are the hours? Did the hours change? Oh, there's an alert on the top, and stuff like that. Thank you.
So I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying about the phone call and the website. So you're looking for something on the website that helps people understand that they can also call in order to get access to those same services?
There is one where people call and they schedule a ride. Okay, and then there's like Carrie that likes to do it on her phone, and she uses the website, and then I got to see it for the first time, and she got to go through steps, and she did have a little bit of a problem, and that's okay, people have problems once in a while, but she was able to call the Metro Mobility to straighten it out, because sometimes, the website doesn't always play nice, and that's okay, it happens. So she called Metro, but at least you got choices, because some people like to, set up their rides, in the middle of the night, and they could do it on the website, and others have to call from, 6 o'clock until 5, like me, because the website sometimes is not my friend. But it was neat to see the process of what she does, and how it works. But the website has to be set up for both entities, because I remember when they brought that to the table and made that a part of a new way of, scheduling.
Yeah, so making it clear that there's different ways that you can do scheduling, whether you prefer to do it online or you could potentially call.
Yes,
those are both
and then all
options
your other
available.
information kind of flows with that and with my phone call. So it can be online, but I still use all the other information. I make a phone call, I still can use all the other information. So it never really goes away. You just have two different options.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Thank you.
Any comments online? All right.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about here that you want to make sure we're hearing before we wrap up?
Make it very clear that Metro Mobility is kind of separate from the Met Council, because sometimes I get brought into the Met Council. It depends on how you type it up or how you find it, I know they're connected as one, but they need to, and for certain information, if you're really going to make this truly Metro Mobility, and I know you have to be a part of the Met Council, but make it so I can go directly to what I need and get what I need done. Thank you.
Great.
What's the timeline and scope of the revamp of the website, or complete redesign, whatever?
Yeah, so we are working on it. We're in the early stages right now. We'll be working for the entire, we're going to have 3 sites. We're going to have Metro HRA will have its own site, Metro Mobility will have its own site, and then we'll have the main council site. And I'm trying to remember the exact timeline for the Metro Mobility. I think we're looking at next winter. Do you have that handy? And then we'll still be going for another year here for the main site, because there's a lot of content there. So we'll be looking at next fall next year for wrapping that one up. Any other questions? Otherwise I can move to, go ahead.
This is Ken.
Oh, we'll let Ken go.
Ken, go ahead. We'll come back to you one.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not able to see a button today to raise my hand, so sorry for the interruptions. But A question, Chelsey, is Metro Transit also being revamped, or is that being kind of just left alone?
Tammy, I don't know if you want to answer that one?
No, would you?
Sure. Can you hear me all right?
We'll need you at a mic or repeated from a mic. So either one, we can repeat you or you can move.
Hi, Metro Transit is going to be very much the same. They are upgrading some technology, but the experience of using the Metro Transit website is going to remain consistent.
Thank you. Heidi, go ahead.
Have they talked to people with disabilities transit? Because I sometimes get confused going there and trying to process your, do what I need to do. Depends on how you type it in and how it brings you to whatever. Because I have to find my certain area, and I was trying to figure all that out.
Are you talking about the Metro Transit website?
Yeah, because she brought it up as being redone. And so if you're being redone, are they, is everyone, like you're doing, you're asking people who have different types of disability issues and processing and stuff. Has they done that for us? Because I get confused sometimes trying to do simple things.
So they're not going to do the Metro Transit website, from what I understand.
Right, that's the experience is going to stay the same, so it's going to look the same. They're just upgrading some technology behind the scenes.
Okay.
So it'll look different than the Metropolitan Council website, Metro Mobility website, and what's the third one?
Metro HRA.
The Metro HRA, okay. I wanted to check back in with Ken to see if Ken had a follow-up. Or do you just wanted to get the yes or no on the Metro Transit website, Ken?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. We'll go to, I think Doug has a relevant question to this, and then we'll come back to Carrie. I think we're on a topic now. I want to stick on this topic before we move on to the next one. Sorry, Carrie, we'll come to you.
Yeah, so this is Doug. So currently, I'm kind of working with our marketing and creative website people to upgrade the accessibility page. And we'll probably, once we kind of get to a certain point, kind of have you guys review it as well.
Okay.
So you can get your input that way.
Cool.
You want it done, just not in this particular project. Gotcha. All right, any other questions on that, on this Metro Transit side of things?
Carrie.
I got you, Heidi, I got you. All right, so that particular discussion is done. Thank you for your patience, Carrie. Ask your question.
My question basically is, when you're making rides online, is there a way, I don't know if it used to be, but is there a way to put in your appointment time and stuff like that? Because you're able to make your ride on the phone and pretty much talk to the person and say, my appointment time is this time. I need to be here this time. Is there a way to do that online? Because I've
Is it okay if I answer that question? Because that's more of the scheduling system technical question.
Okay.
And at this point, we are still not to the point where we can add the appointment time to it. The problem is when you use the website, you can either put in a schedule time or an appointment time, but not both. And when we had that option available, 99% of the people were putting in both times. Completely confused the system, made incorrect rides available. We haven't been able to overcome that yet. So at this point, if you have an appointment time, we do prefer that you call into reservations.
Okay.
Well, that should be explained on the website.
Do that.
That's why we're here. Thank you very much. That was, any other input on this particular slide from folks in the room or online? All right, I think you got a few more slides, yeah? Or is that it?
Yeah, we were just going to let you know kind of what happens from here. So, as I mentioned, we're trying to understand and learn from folks like yourselves, what is really required, what we're going to need to make sure this experience is supporting everyone. So that work is going to continue. We're going to take the feedback that we're hearing here and bring it into our design process as we start to think about what does that new content look like, how is it organized, how do we make sure it's accessible for everyone, how do we think about that from an organization navigation standpoint in a way that is intuitive to everybody who's using the site. And then we'll continue to improve on that. So as we continue to roll out this new site, we want to have a continuous improvement cycle so that we can continue to get feedback and make improvements as we go. Because ideally that work doesn't stop when a new site launches. We want to make sure that we continue to evolve so that we're meeting needs. Any last questions for us?
Heidi, go ahead and then I'll close this out.
Make sure that the, like Ken uses the reader and I have used the reader too, that it reads like a real address or it reads like real words and not just what it thinks it might be. So try really hard to get that kind of information because when it leaves it on your voicemail, it doesn't, and this is the technology part fault, it doesn't read the addresses or say certain things correctly. It only says certain parts of it correctly because the technology isn't all there. It reads it like 1,000 and I don't live, or you're going to this place and it's like instead of 1335, it's a whole different kind of number, or certain words are kind of killed, you know. Yeah. So in the website, it would be cool if the reader can understand enough to know that we're heading where we need to go, or I'm on the right page, you know. And it's not just made up words, you know. And remember pictures, if you ever use pictures, readers sometimes pick up behind what's behind that picture in certain, you know, so make sure you don't indent something that should never be there in the first place.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to reiterate what Ken said and then hope that you come back frequently as things develop, but thank you for coming in the beginning of the process. I can say with confidence that as you transform things or as you start to design stuff, that we'll have probably more feedback and even more helpful feedback because we'll have something we can actually, some materials that are being changed that we can say that's great or that's not. So please come back throughout the process, and please just real quickly, and then please also, if you do want more input from this group, we can take some of this stuff offline too and not have to do it in this formal of a setting where we can have a more facilitated discussion, or more sort of poignant discussions on specific things. Heidi, go ahead.
Didn't you bring us a show and tell of if they partially have their
great idea
done, so we can see it on the screen, and Ken and a few others who can't see, can understand and give their inputs. That would be really awesome. Then we can say, I understand your concept, but I'm a little confused, or I really like that concept. That's a really great idea. And so then we'll understand what you're talking about, your target, what you're trying to get at. Thank you.
Yes, we'd love to do that.
Great idea, yeah. Thank you, Heidi. That was a good idea. And thank you for coming.
Thank you all for your time today.
Hope to see you soon. Moving right along, Jenny and Paul in the back. Come on down. Nice to see you all yet again for a Better Bus update. Better Bus Stops update. There's a big difference between a bus and a bus stop. Take it away.
Well, thank you for having us. We're here to present on the Better Bus Stops program. My name is Jenny Ackerson. I'm a senior planner with Metro Transit in our facilities planning group, and I'm joined by my colleague.
I'm Paul Lamb. I'm a project manager in the engineering group at Metro Transit.
So the Better Bus Stops program is Metro Transit's flagship program to make improvements to our 8,000 regular bus stops. So this is not bus rapid transit stations or light rail stations, but the good old-fashioned regular bus stop. These bus stop improvements typically include accessible boarding areas, or we call them ADA paths sometimes. Those are flat-free, slip-resistant areas at the front door for people to get on and off the bus. We have a photo here for item 2, a bus shelter. So this has 3 clear glass walls, a roof, and a bench inside of the shelter for people to sit or set their belongings on. We also include light inside the shelters, so that will illuminate inside the shelter and the immediate area for people to get on and off the bus. This is for general safety and visibility in the dark hours. And also we have an image of a heater in a shelter. We put these in our highest boarding locations where people can access heat in the colder months. Next slide. For today's presentation, we're going to spend a bit of time focusing on the accessibility aspect of our program, namely the accessible boarding areas. So we have a drawing that we also consider our team logo. It includes a drawing of a typical bus stop with a sign. We have the accessible boarding area outlined in a red dotted line, and it connects to a sidewalk. This is kind of a typical bus stop. I hope everybody has participated in one of these before, but for a technical definition, an accessible boarding area is 5 feet wide and 8 feet deep. The cross slope is 2% or less, so basically you won't notice that there's any slope there. It should be flat, firm, and slip resistant. Typically that's going to be concrete. And it should connect to a pedestrian path, so whether it is the sidewalk itself or connecting to something like a sidewalk. Next slide. Oh, thank you. So our bus stop accessibility program, we have been making regular improvements to individual bus stops or corridors of bus stops for a number of years. However, since 2022, we've done a more concerted effort to collect detailed accessibility data at our bus stops. At the close of last fall, we were able to determine that system-wide statistics, we've collected enough bus stop information that we can begin to put together some great numbers that we'll share in a few slides. Also on this slide, we have an image. This is one of our interns crouching down in some landscaping rocks. She's wearing a high-vis vest, as we do for site work. She has a tape measure that's laying across the sidewalk to measure the depth. So the fact that she's crouching in some landscape rocks tells me that this bus stop is not quite 8 feet deep. We also have a level on the ground showing that this bus stop is relatively flat, but this is just a peek into what our data collection efforts look like. It was one by one in the fair weather months. And a bit more about our data collection. So I have a hierarchy chart on the left to help understand what our data collection entailed. Metro Transit has about 8,000 bus stops. On the left, underneath that, we show that about 1,100 bus stops have shelters. On the right of this chart, we show 6,900 bus stops don't have shelters. So that's the hole in the ground, maybe has an accessible boarding area. So we focused on those 6,900 bus stops for our data collection because bus stops with shelters need a concrete surface for the shelter to be mounted in. Those tend to be accessible. Right, on the right side of the chart, those 6,900 bus stops without shelters, we have collected data at about 6,400 of them, or over 90%. So we have a lot of data to share here, and there are just fewer than 500 bus stops where we don't have that ADA data yet, but we're gonna get working on that this summer, and each year as our bus stop system changes, we'll continue that data collection effort. Also shown on the slide on the right, we have an aerial image of the Twin Cities metropolitan area, and we have about 7,000 dots on there to show where we've collected bus stop accessibility data. We see green dots where bus stops are accessible, yellow dots where they are constrained or nearly accessible, and orange dots where they are inaccessible. We see also on this chart a black and white square signifying where we've made ADA pad improvements through the Better Bus Stops program or our coordinated projects. So there are nearly 400 of those since 2020 that we've been tracking. We can, on this image, we have inaccessible and accessible bus stops everywhere in our system. but there are more accessible bus stops in the urban cores and immediate suburbs and more inaccessible bus stops as you get further away from the cores. This is typically due to roadway design or the availability of a sidewalk network adjacent to the road.
Are you okay with taking a question from Doug, or do you want him to wait till the end?
Oh, I can take one now. Thank you.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Doug.
so you mentioned nearly accessible. What does that mean?
I will get into that on the next slide. Thank you, Doug.
I feel like I should be asking that question, Doug, not you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry.
So I wanted to share here our system-wide findings. So I mentioned that we did not focus our data collection efforts on shelters. So we have a chart here on the left side of the screen that shows an orange bar for shelters. That bar is somewhere between around 70% on this chart. This is showing 70% of bus stop activities, ons and offs, boardings and alightings. So any time someone interacts with the bus, really. Also in this chart, we show 3 statuses for those bus stops without shelters: accessible, inaccessible, and constrained accessibility. Those are the 3 in the center. And here I'll give the explanation. We define constrained accessibility or nearly accessible. That is not a legal definition. It's not a definition for the ADA law. That's one that we created for our capital planning purposes, because they might just be a couple inches too short, not quite 8 feet deep, a couple inches too narrow, so not quite 5 feet, or they might have a slope that's 3% instead of 2%. So we wanted to distinguish these slight deficiencies so that we can prioritize greater deficiencies first. So we understand that they don't quite meet the letter of the law, but we aren't necessarily going to go and correct them first. So we wanted to understand where we can prioritize our efforts. So what I'll say on the right, we have a couple summary bullet points. The bus stops that have shelters that we consider essentially accessible, and the bus stops where we collected data that are fully accessible, those combined account for 86% of all bus stop activities, which is the first time we have this number to share for a system-wide statistic, and we think it's a great starting place for us to improve on. So potentially each year we can report on how this number is increasing as the Better Bus Stops program adds new accessible boarding areas, or as our bus rapid transit system expands and adds those as well. So this is 86% of bus stop activities. That total number is about 3,000 bus stops. Also in the summary bullet points, we show that 6% of bus stops are inaccessible, so 6% of bus stop activities rather, but that is a greater number of bus stops, 3,300. It just means that a lot of these bus stops might have
Kimberly Wilson.
one or fewer people getting on and off the bus every day, so it's a smaller fraction of the total ridership. We also have a similar percentage
Kimberly
of bus
Wilson.
stops that are constrained or nearly accessible. That count is 1,000. So those are the ones that we're not prioritizing first for capital improvements. And then the last bullet point here is that less than 2% of bus stop activities don't have accessibility data collected, so about 480 bus stops. So this slide has a lot of percentages and numbers, but what I want to take away here is that I would say, I guess it's 86% of bus stop activities, people getting on and off the bus, take place where there is an accessible boarding area, which is a really great number for us to know and work on.
Yeah, Heidi.
Is this only in like St. Paul and Minneapolis, or is it the suburbs? Because I reacted earlier when I saw these pictures on your next slide, because I've actually lived it where it wasn't handicapped accessible at all. So I don't know, and you're telling us this data, but how far out does this go? Because the suburbs have a really sloppy, good and bad taste, as you get further out. So I don't know how wide this data goes. Can you explain that to us?
Yes, Chair, Council. committee member. Thank you for the question. So the next slide does start to explain this, and also the previous slide image, but this accounts for the 8,000 bus stops across the 7-county metro area that is Metro Transit's responsibility. So it does include first, second, third ring suburbs, and the core cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Okay.
So I think this slide will also help answer your question. What we also now know from this data are the top reasons why bus stops are inaccessible, at least by a count. So of those 3,300 bus stops that are inaccessible, a majority of them, 2,200, are simply unpaved. And this is one image to show an unpaved bus stop. So this has the bus stop sign in a grassy area. This happens to be adjacent to presumably a freeway because it has a barrier wall. So there is no sidewalk, there is no boarding area. This is the nature of just what this side of the road looks like. So it is a bit of a challenge to make it accessible, but it is something that we are aware of in the system.
We have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
When you're giving, the number of or percentage of accessible stops, is it, I've witnessed where if I'm on one route, one direction, the stops on one direction of a given route are accessible. Mm-hmm. But on the way back, if I want to get back to that same destination, I can't do that because the corresponding stop is not accessible. Yeah. And a couple questions come to my mind with that situation. Doesn't that, are they thinking about accessibility with the unit of accessibility being the bus stop, or one bus stop, or is it if you have a customer that wants to get from a destination, from a starting point to an ending point, and then from that ending point back to the starting point, to me as a user, that seems more valuable to me, because if I can only get one direction on a route, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair, Council, Committee Member. I completely hear and understand what you're saying. So yes, the percentages and numbers I provided are just entire system-wide numbers, but they don't reflect what percentage of one person's bus trip is accessible. And yes, the image, for example, for number 1, unpaved, I bet the bus stop across the street in the opposite direction is accessible, but this one is not. So ultimately, that trip might not be able to be made for people.
Is there anything that can be done? I know sometimes it's geography, and you can't, nobody expects that you're going to change the world magically, but I just don't know if there's any way to change that or not. Does that make sense?
So the question is, and I think maybe we should.
I know where she's coming from.
So the question is will you prioritize the sort of routes that are half accessible, like coming home is not accessible, going to is accessible?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing you might address that later in the presentation because you seem to have answered questions in the next slide every single time. So I'm thinking, unless it's a clarifying question, that we hold questions till the end, because I think that a lot of your questions will be answered as the presentation goes on. Go ahead, Heidi.
From what she was saying is both ends have to be handicapped accessible. The order to do any of this, because you're asking us to say, oh, that's okay, do this, but then half of it is handicapped and the other half isn't. It doesn't make sense, you know? So
that
it's
is
something to
exactly,
think about.
Yep, that is exactly what we're asking. But if you're going to address it later on, I'm willing to hold questions till the end because I think you have a well-designed presentation with very good data and very good like on-site sort of reviews. So I don't want to bog you down with our questions that you're going to answer later. So note to members, I will be doing that. But I will take note. If I see your hand up, I will take note and I will come to you at the end if your question has not been answered, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I'm happy to address this one now.
Okay.
So this is basically what's come up when our team saw that we had all this data. It brings up so many questions in so many cases. So now that we have this data, we're rethinking how should we prioritize our investments. We know which ones are more deficient. That's one way to do it. And another way is to think which, we call them stop pairs when you think about both directions at a corner. Should we focus on where there's incomplete pairs? That's another option for us. So I made a note here, and I'm certainly happy to hear any ideas at the close of the presentation. And I think Paul wanted to add too.
Chair and council members, I would say like in order to address that, there could be different ways in terms of how inaccessible that is. Like for example, in this image in number 1, where there is just turf and a noise wall and curb and no real sidewalk infrastructure, that might be something where we try to coordinate with a roadway agency where in the future, if they're going to be reconstructing that roadway, we'd work with them to get a boarding pad and a crossing in. At other locations in suburban areas where maybe one side of the road has a trail or sidewalk, but the other one doesn't have any, but there are crossings, we can work with our bus operations staff to try and figure out how, like whether a bus can pull into a crossing and let somebody off on a paved surface in the road there as long as it's safe. So there are some different things that we can look at, but it ends up being very kind of route or roadway specific.
Okay, to continue with the current slide, this slide was talking about the top 3 reasons why bus stops are inaccessible. So number 1 was that it's simply unpaved. This one happens to have no sidewalk at all. But number 2 is depth, and we have what we've said the top reason is, the second most common reason is depth at about 650 bus stops. So we have a photo here to represent that the sidewalk, it meets the edge of the curb and it's overall narrow. I don't have the exact measurement for this one, but we have a red dotted line to show that the boarding area, which should be 8 feet deep, extends beyond the sidewalk into kind of a sloped grassy area. So while this bus stop might be accessible for some people, it is certainly a challenge when you need to deploy the ramp, for instance. So on that use case, as Paul just mentioned, the operator might choose to pull right into the intersection if it's a safe condition and have someone get on or off the bus there because where the bus stop sign is not quite accessible. The third most common reason why bus stops are inaccessible are due to slope, and this is at about 350 bus stops. This is there's so many images you could show for this one, but for here, this bus stop does have a sidewalk, and the sidewalk even has a paved space connecting to the curb, but there is a difference in slope. So the sidewalk itself is cracked or in poor condition, and then there's a bit of a curve downwards to the curb itself. So again, this is maybe accessible for some people, but for other people, this is going to be a challenge. The uneven surface or just not being able to deploy the ramp, et cetera. So just wanted to highlight these as what we see across our system by the nature of the existing sidewalk network and where we're seeing challenges and where we can make improvements. So the last slide I have about bus stop accessibility is just to share how this process is going to work. So this is a 3-step process that we've outlined. The first one showing data collection, and we've done a lot of the data collection, but it's a continuing thing that we'll do in the warmer months as our bus stop system changes. The second step is the accessibility review. So that's where we take the information, the data collected, the exact feet and inches and slope percentages and the photos to make the determination if a bus stop is inaccessible, constrained, or nearly accessible, or it is accessible. The third step here is planning and design. This is where Paul and I will collaborate, but basically where we prioritize which bus stops to improve for the year or identify which bus stops are being improved through other projects, like when a roadway is being reconstructed. Then also, Paul might lead a design for better bus stops, or we might review designs for that roadway project, for example. And then the fourth step is that the accessible boarding area or ADA pad gets constructed. So this is a 4-step process, and it reflects that we will try to make as many boarding areas accessible each year. That number can vary depending on our coordination efforts, but it is a continuing mission for us. All right, the last slide I have to share before I'll hand it off to Paul. This is our key performance indicator, or KPI. This is something that the Better Bus Stops program has put together each year since 2016. This chart shows availability of shelter, light, and heat by percentage of boarding, so just where people get on the bus. This chart's split into 3, so we have blue bars that represent an increasing percentage of availability of shelter where people get on the bus. This percentage is at over 70% now, and it will continue to increase as we expand the Better Bus Stop system for shelters and as bus rapid transit routes open. In the center of this chart, we see light shown in yellow bars. This number has also been increasing over years, and now we are at over 50% of where riders get on the bus have access to light inside of the shelter. There may be street lights around as well, but we don't quite track that the same. And the third section on this chart is heat within the shelter. These are shown in red bars. This number has also been increasing year over year, and we're at over 40% of boardings take place where there is heat inside of the shelter. We also disaggregate this number or re-summarize it by race and ethnicity to make sure that these amenities are being available to Black, Indigenous, and people of color at an equal or higher rate. And I don't have a chart on the screen, but this number is increasing and towards the goal that we are aiming for. So we are on track in that regard. And I'll pass it to Paul.
Thank you, Jenny. I'll give an update on what we were able to accomplish in 2025. It was a busy construction year for us. We were able to install 152 new boarding pads at bus stops that hadn't had them before, add 32 new shelters at locations that didn't have them, replace 24 older shelters. The typical lifespan of a shelter is about 20 years. So we check conditions as it's getting close to that and factor that in as part of our capital plan of updating the shelter so it's a better waiting experience for customers. And then we're able to add shelter or light or heat at 41 shelters across the metro transit service area. And I note that these are, as Jenny said earlier, for the Better Bus Stops program, just at local route shelters or regular route shelters. These don't count any of the over, I think, 150 BRT platforms or stations that were opened up last year across 3 lines. And then in terms of construction highlights, this slide shows a couple of different images. On the right, there are images of construction workers pouring and smoothing the concrete at some boarding pads. And then on the left, I guess the left and the middle are 2 kind of different levels of boarding pads that we've been putting in. The one on the left is the more simple one where the boulevard is fairly flat. It meets the 2% slope that Jenny talked about earlier. So we just need to infill between the sidewalk and the curb. The picture in the middle is a little more complex pad where the boulevard doesn't meet the 2% slope, so it's not flat. So in order to get that for the boarding area and the transition pad as the pad enters into the sidewalk, we have to slope the pad down or the sidewalk down and then back up. So a little more complex, but something that we're trying to do to make sure that the bus stops are accessible. And then a lot of these were led by Metro Transit, but I'd also like to thank our regional roadway partners, as Jenny mentioned. Our planning group looks at and comments on a lot of roadway designs and private development designs. And we're trying to and have been successful in coordinating with those roadway partners to get more ADA bus stops or accessible bus stops and also shelters, in some cases heat and light included in those projects. It's a lot more efficient both in terms of disruption and cost to have one contractor do that instead of a roadway project coming in and us following up in with a different construction contract a year or two later. And it also helps ensure that the bus stop fits in well and is accessible with all the other things going on in the roadway project. For example, some roadway projects have bike lanes going in, rain gardens, utility poles, street furniture, different access points. And we want to make sure that the bus stop is in a location and has a paved surface area so that people can get on and off the bus and to the sidewalk easily, and minimizing confusion and making it just a better experience for customers. And with of the 150 bus stops that I mentioned that got ADA paths last year, about a third of those were through that coordinated construction project. And then some shelters as well on, let's see, I think it's Arcade is part of MnDOT's reconstruction project. St. Paul, Grand Avenue, were able to incorporate that into their roadway project. And then the city of Minneapolis had a bikeway corridor along Oak Street where we did a lot of coordination. We're able to get boarding pads and shelters in the area between the bikeway and the street, and then also designated or marked crosswalks across those bikeways to let cyclists know where people are going to be crossing, but also let customers know where they should cross. And finally, as Jenny mentioned, Better Bus Stops is an ongoing program. So every year, the goal is to create more accessible bus stops and more safe bus stops, whether that's through Metro Transit-led projects or through coordinating with our roadway partners. Our goal every year is to increase the number of accessible stops, also as well as adding shelters, light, and heat to create a better overall customer experience. And with that, thank you for your time, and we'll take questions.
I'm sure. I'll start off, and then I'll go online. I'm guessing some folks online might have questions. Is it a typical year to do 150 ADA new ADA pads, or is that not to fluctuate?
Chair and committee members, that's more than we've done in previous years. It was more than our goal was, but I think as we're trying to do multiple construction projects a year, Metro Transit led, and then also coordinating with roadway partners, we're hoping to meet that in future years. But that is a significant increase from previous years.
Well, good. Online, Ken or Chris, do you have questions or comments?
Yeah, this is Ken. I have a couple of comments. Number one is I would like to see. Well, let me back up a little bit. So our ADA process is based on complaints. So for oftentimes sidewalk inaccessibility, a curb ramp inaccessibility, crosswalk inaccessibility, all is triggered to be corrected by a complaint that gets levied by typically a person with a disability. That's our system. Municipalities oftentimes will report that, well, we didn't know that wasn't accessible, or that sidewalk had heaved because nobody's reported it. So my question is, would you consider including in the Better Bus Stops project outline that when you encounter an inaccessible sidewalk that butts up against a bus stop pad that is not fully accessible, if you would, as part of your process, report to the municipality that there's a sidewalk problem, so that can be logged and incorporated so that the municipality can address it more more timely. That's one suggestion. I think by the programs kind of working together, we might be able to get a better overall accessibility, because I know sidewalks are not your responsibility. But that could be one way of making sure that the inaccessible sidewalk adjacent to the pad gets notified for a municipality to need to address that. The other question I have is, I will be reaching out to you to have a more targeted conversation. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Olmsted Plan, but our state has an Olmsted Plan that is currently in development. The Met Council agency team that consists of Jerry Sutton, Terry Smith, and Anna Richfield, I think, all covering a particular aspect of the Met Council responsibilities, all got together with people with disabilities. I'm on that team, and we have created goals for the next 5 years. One of the goals that we created was including the requirement for X number of bus stop pads to be installed where they're not accessible per year. And I don't remember what the number was that we came up with, but having the data that you provided would have really been helpful to help us coordinate that number. Now, we only have draft goals right now, and we're going to be in the process in the next month to correct those numbers and update those numbers. And so I'd like to just let you know ahead of time that I'll be reaching out to you, or someone from the Met Council team will be reaching out to you, so we can kind of coordinate together and figure out what is an appropriate number to put as a yearly goal for the Met Council to be able to address inaccessible paths at bus stops. The last point I want to make is I want to just caution, and I may have misunderstood this, so correct me if I did misunderstand, but I heard you say several times, Jenny, that the numbers are based on ridership. So if a bus stop doesn't have a very robust ridership, that has less priority, or it didn't get included in the data. And I just want to point out that if that assumption is correct, one of the reasons why that particular stop may not have riders is because it's not accessible, and the people that need to use it can't use it. So I want to just caution about how we're evaluating the non-accessible stops so that they don't get omitted in our process of making sure that we are increasing our accessibility each year. And I'll leave it at that.
Chair and committee member, thank you. Those are all great points. Regarding your first question about when the sidewalk is not accessible or in bad shape or damaged as it connects to a bus stop, that is something that we do track. If it's immediately at the bus stop, we'll probably take out a couple of, if the issue is immediately at the bus stop, we'll usually take out a couple of additional sidewalk panels and try and re-pour those, make sure that the slope goes in and that it's in good condition. Beyond that, I know last year we did have a number of, as we were collecting data on shelters, there were about 30 or 40 locations where the staff in the field identified something, not necessarily at the bus stop, but nearby, whether it's a water cap sticking out from the sidewalk, whether the sidewalk is in bad and crumbling condition and spalling. We have that. We've been following up with the roadway agencies to, one, make them aware of it, and two, see if that is something that is in any of their upcoming capital plans to fix, or even just annual operations and maintenance plans to fix. So we have started that process of coordinating or letting agencies know when we come across something adjacent to a bus stop. We're starting off with shelters, but we will be expanding that to more bus stop pad type bus stops.
And thank you. I'll chime in for the second and third comment or question. We have heard about an update to the Olmsted plan. I know that my Assistant Director, Anna Flintoft, has been one of the coordinating partners on the Metro Transit side. I recall she was taking input from our group about it, and we didn't have this accessibility data at the time. So this is exactly the kind of coordination point we want to hear. More data helps us make better decisions. So looking forward to coordinating with you or others on that group, Ken. And just for transparency, our goal is to, right now, which was recently increased, is to improve 60 bus stops a year to make them accessible. So we blew that number out of the park last year, but our stated goal is 60. And then for your last comment, I'll just clarify our data collection and prioritization for where we make capital improvements for accessibility are not based on ridership at all. But I agree with you with the point that the 6% of bus stop activity at inaccessible bus stops, that number is probably low because some people just can't ride at that bus stop because it's inaccessible. So there is an uncertainty in that number, but we are aware of it.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic points, Ken. Giving preference to folks online, Chris, did you have questions or comments? All right. Heidi.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, did you say yes?
No.
Okay, Heidi, go ahead.
My question is, how did we get here? You know, because I remember in the 80s, because I lived in Burnsville, where a bus would come once a day, you know, in the morning and the evenings and stuff. And now we're talking about redesigning bus stops. How do you decide where a bus stop goes and it's not ADA or anything handicapped accessible? How does that work? Does anyone can explain that to me? Because it's kind of interesting that it's 2026 and now we're still fixing something that keeps happening over and over and over. So how did we get here to be this bad? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and
I'm
committee
not
members.
trying to make you feel bad, but it's like we got a crisis here and we keep fixing it, but how do you choose? Because you don't want the, you know, so far apart from bus stop to bus stop that no one uses the bus because no one can get there. But you also are fixing something that's kind of interesting. And our winters, they suck when I saw some of these pictures, because I've literally have lived it, where they had to figure out, and not all buses can make it so it's handicapped accessible just so you can get on the bus because of where you stuck me in the grass and the snow. Thank you.
That is a great question, Heidi. It's my type of question. Why put a bus sign in without putting an ADA pad in?
Yes, thank you, Chair and committee members. I think part of the question was, how did we get here? Metro Transit and the transit systems that preceded it have been around for decades, and we did not have the same standards as we have. But I believe we're 30 or 35 years into the ADA law, and that's a long time that's passed where we only just now know these numbers. So how do bus stops get placed? That is a bit of coordination with our service development group and our street operations group. But ultimately, you are allowed to put a bus stop sign where there's no accessible boarding area. But we do think that that bus stop sign is a promise of future accessibility. So maybe it can't be that way on day one, but now we know about it and we can improve on it.
It's just interesting. Well, do you have anybody on your committee that understands disabilities? Like you don't have to keep doing this in the future? You know, where, because there's probably a lot of money going to waste where we can solve it in other ways. And I know my question may never get 100% answered, but at least we can try. Thank you.
Doug.
Yeah, so to kind of follow up with that, I guess. So you showed that one picture where it's next to the highway. There's like 2.5 feet of grass, and we got a bus stop sign there. There's no way you're going to get a sidewalk in there. So, and I know that service development, you know, they want to put bus stops in the best area they want to, but do you work, I mean, obviously you work with them in some way. It just seems like that's a no-go, totally, like from today. I mean, that might have been 40 years ago, who knows? But that's just like, yeah, we need to work with them to get that out of there, because there's no way you're going to get a pad in there.
Yes, thank you, Chair and committee members. I can't speak for other departments to say whether or not we would place that same bus stop location in that photo, but at least we would have a better acknowledgement of its inaccessibility issues. Some things that we can do is look at alternative routing if possible. This being next to a freeway kind of suggests that that might have unfortunately been the best routing on that side of the road. But this is where we could also flag it as an accessibility gap to the city. Like Ken mentioned, there's no sidewalk on the side of the street. We're really constrained with what we're able to improve here. Paul, did you have a remark as well?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I guess.
I asked, is that
Yeah, I
one
see.
picture?
I got your question. Let them finish real quickly. I
sorry.
see you, though. I'll come to you in a second.
I guess just to follow up and add something, part of the Better Bus Stops program is coordinating with the Better Bus Routes program. So that's a service development-led project where they kind of look at a couple of routes per year, try to make service improvements, and then as part of that, make facility improvements to some of those stops. And that is something where they look at each bus stop on a route regardless of ridership. So that is one area that, service development and us have been coordinating, and we have been coordinating pretty closely on. That being said, I think there are a lot of routes and route changes throughout the Metro Transit Service District or service area, and I'm not sure if that is that we get coordinated with on everyone, or there have also been some times where, we have, we're aware of that or we're made aware of that, but we don't have the resources to start the design the given year that service development is starting a route. So we'll put it on a list to do next year.
So just to follow up, I have on the agenda for next month, Better Bus Routes coming here, so we can answer that question.
Perfect. Heidi, and then we'll go to Claudia.
My question is that one picture where it's next to the fence? Because I see those like on highways, and I see the certain generation of people with disabilities. I'd be very afraid to stick them in some of these bus stops because they're not safe to cross. They're not safe to understand how to maneuver, like when I go to the U, using the light rail, if you get up at the wrong stop, you're screwed, and then you have to figure out how to get back or forward or whatever you're doing. So it's the same thing with the trains. You're doing it with the trains and the buses. It's not just one entity. So keep that in mind and teaching and stuff, because I'm really afraid to go to some of these stops the way you're talking, to do like, if that's where I gotta go and the bus really can take me there and it's like short and simple and sweet, but it's not handicapped accessible, or you can't process how to get there or understand how to cross the street. You're asking for the next generation to not want to take the bus, and I don't want a lot of people to stay at home, and be scared. Thank you.
That's a good point, Heidi. Thank you. Claudia, or did you want to address it? Sorry, do you want to address? Go
Yes.
ahead.
I have one comment to address that I forgot to mention during the presentation. So now that we have this more accurate data about bus stop accessibility, we are working with our transit information team, the trip planner, to update that. So when you are not scheduling, but looking up which routes to take on the Metro Transit trip planner, you can choose make this trip accessible. So this data will be added into that set. Hasn't happened yet, but it'll improve the quality of it for people trip planning through that resource.
That's kind of bold. I like that idea. Thank you for doing that. Claudia.
Accessibility and safety is so important for everybody. And it's important to make sure that the shelters are someplace where it's easy to get to. And the other thing I have is when you're looking at the shelters, make sure that they're big enough and the doors are wide enough so that someone with a mobility device can get into the shelters safely. because it's so important. I've run into that many times where I can't get into a shelter. And then the other one is, will the new shelters have any kind of a emergency button? So in case something happens, we can call that button or push that button and someone will come and help us out.
Chair and committee member, great questions and great points. I guess for the latter question, in terms of the emergency buttons, we do have emergency telephones as a standard for our LRT and BRT lines. They're not standard for our regular route bus service because you need a hardwired connection to be there, and with a couple hundred regular route shelters and the ability that they might move over time as stops get located. That isn't something that is not something that at this point is standard with regular route shelters. But it is, we hear that occasionally, and that's something we continue to look at, is whether that's feasible, kind of what would need to be done to be able to accomplish that. And then for your first point about accessibility in shelters and not being able to get into shelters, I guess it'd be good, and I should have mentioned this before, but on one of the slides towards the end, if there are any bus stops that you're aware of that aren't meeting accessibility standards, or you see issues or complaints, or even if you want to have a shelter added, on the Metro Transit website, there is a comments site, and that is both for complaints, but also for suggestions for bus stops. Actually, it's set up for anything transit related. It could be a commendation for a driver. It could be bus didn't wait for me, or the connection is bad. But in that part of the contact us, thank you, slide or page on the Metro Transit website, if you drop down and fill in others, you can point out, or that's a good way to input something that you see deficiencies in, or it's not working out, the shelter is not wide enough, it's located or oriented in a way where there's not 4 feet of width to be able to get in there, even for stops that you would like to see a shelter or a boarding pad at. That's a good way to be able to access that in, and that'll also help us track it kind of more centrally.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just want to add that David and I have always promoted just to call Metro Transit Customer Relations option 3 when you call, and you can do the same thing as on that form if it's easier, and they'll send it to the correct department so your voice is heard.
Yep. Thank you.
Any final thoughts from folks? Otherwise, we can go on to our next. Heidi, yes, last thought.
My thing is, you said we can make a complaint, but you're making the bus stops ADA or handicapped accessible, whatever you think that is the website that I go make my complaint to ADA, and easy to reference? Because you're asking us to make a complaint. Both ends have to be accessible enough to, like Ken uses the reader, I've used the reader, that the form is easy to fill out, So, because if you're saying, if I can't do a phone call and I can do, let's say I don't want to do a phone call and I want to do the sheet thing or fill out, like go to the website, can I do that? And is it, friendly user?
Yes, thank you, Chair and Committee Member. I can't speak to exactly how accessible our website is. I hope it is, but I'm going to take this back to the web team and make sure that that form is easy to use for a screen reader, just simple to fill out as well. So I'll take that back to our group.
Yeah, because a lot of this stuff you're talking about, if it goes to the website or to a certain thing on the internet, kind of ties together. Let's be friends with each other and make them handicapped accessible, ADA, whatever you can do to make it so I can be at that bus stop if it's handicapped accessible. At the same time, the website tells me that the bus is going to be there in 20 minutes, or it tells me there is real construction, sorry, the bus stop is killed for the day. you know, they both work at a friendly gesture.
Thank you.
So if you can bring that to their attention, great, thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. We have a guest, Mark, who has a comment as well. Introduce yourself. Yeah, please go ahead.
Sorry, Mark Samander, civil rights specialist. I work with Scotty. Scotty unfortunately has a meeting, so could not join us today. Regarding the comments with the accessibility of the website, currently that website is up to date and accessible. If you have any issues with the accessibility though, if you don't mind, I will go ahead and share a number where you can call me directly. And there's an email that you can directly contact, and we'll make sure to remediate that as soon as possible.
Yeah, I just brought it up because he brought it up and I thought the two can mirror
Let's get
each
the number.
other
Yeah,
perfectly.
and I want to make sure that you do have access to someone at least that you can directly communicate that issue to. So I can definitely provide you with that number that we currently have and the email. Should I provide the number now or?
Just, yeah, call it out. I'm ready to write it down.
Yeah, it's 612-474-3284. And that takes you directly to me. So if I don't respond directly, leave a voice message. I'm usually in a meeting, but I'm very, very responsive and I try to get back to you on the same day. And if you have any other accessibility issues in relation to the website or other Metropolitan Council programs or services, just call me and I'll be more than happy to address those issues with you.
Well, I'm glad I asked the
Thank you,
question.
and thank you for filling in.
3284?
3284, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll send you the information.
Thank you for filling in
Thank you.
for your office
Apologies
too.
for intervening, but I thought it would be helpful for everyone.
Oh, I appreciate, I'm
Yeah.
glad I asked the question.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
All right. Are y'all good? Did you want to say anything at the end? This was very interesting and very well put together, and I'm glad that we have this data now. So thank you for coming in and presenting to us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We're happy to hear from you outside this meeting as well.
And can I say one thing? I want to thank.
We're
the
running
guy
out of time,
behind the
Heidi.
curtain, because he brought us back to
Okay.
different pictures, which helped the story along.
Thank you, man behind the curtain, from Heidi Meyer. All right, Julie, you can have the last 15 minutes. Man, that was a really good presentation.
We're going to speed read, and we're not going to take any questions until the end. Is that okay, everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll
The
make
first part is for anybody that's a part of our audience today that doesn't know what the Metro Mobility Program is. I believe majority of us do, so I'm going to move past that. Same thing with our key performance metrics, which are our KPIs that we report to the FTA. If we look at the Metro Mobility 2025 to 2026 during this same time last year, January through April, we have increased by 4.4% or an additional 25,000 rides over this time last year.
Wow.
It's huge.
Wow.
Our on-time performance, we're hanging in there. We're doing great, even with the additional demand, at 93.8 overall for the system. And breaking that on-time performance down a little bit more, ADA is at 93.77 and non-ADA at 93.65. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. And I don't think they're keeping up with us here, so if anybody's wondering, we're on slide number 7.
Oh, okay.
We're going speed reading. And this is breaking down our on-time performance. So on-time trips, 52% of them were picked up within 10 minutes of their scheduled time. And the raw data is there to break it out by minutes per that scheduled window pickup time for any additional information you'd like to see. When it comes to the late trips, please note that 62% are picked up within 10 minutes after their pickup window. So 62% are within 10 minutes after their pickup window, and that's our greatest area for improvement. Moving on to slide number 8. This is our appointment time. Very much struggled with that in 2023 and 2024, holding the line in 2026 at 93.1%. Skipping on to slide number 9, our appointment time And we're breaking this down now into ADA and non-ADA. Our ADA is at 93.1%, and our non-ADA is at 93.09%. This time last year, our appointment time was at 93.5, so we do have some room for improvement here going forward. Moving forward to slide number 10, our appointment time, which breaks it down into greater detail. The appointment times where we arrived early, 67% of them were within 30 to 45 minutes of their appointment time. And then again, the 45 minutes to 90 minutes early, those are our greatest areas for improvement. For our late appointment times, 56% of them were within 10 minutes of their scheduled appointment time. And the remaining are down where we're considerably late. We had 583 or 6% of the late trips were more than 30 minutes late for their appointment times. That's the hardest impact on our passengers and our greatest area for improvement. Moving on to slide number 11, where we look at our onboard time. We've always done pretty well here. Again, holding the line even with increased demand. We're at 97.2%. Moving on to slide 12, our KPI and onboard time broken down into ADA and non-ADA trips. 96.86% for ADA, 98.03% for non-ADA. Again, another reason for the non-ADA, those are mainly the outskirts of the metropolitan area. They're longer trips. The onboard time has more flexibility, more time built into it. So the ADA are our shorter trips in the metropolitan area. Struggled to maintain that, but we're doing very, very well at 96.8%. Moving on to slide 13, ADA request denials in 2026. We're holding up with 2025 with 0 one-way denials in any ADA trip. I kind of wanted, moving on to slide number 14, I just wanted to take a moment to kind of talk about, in the last 12 months since I've been on board, the operational improvements that we've put into place. Driver mate that we've been hearing about since I was hired is starting installs this week. So that's excellent news. They're starting out in the west zone. They can do approximately 15 to 20 vehicles a week. It is going to take some time. We do have some supply and demand issues, but this is a huge step forward, and it's really going to make an improvement with on-time routing and the efficiency overall of the system. So we're really excited about this one. We have increased our fleet size from this time last year by 27%. We're now up to 635 vehicles. We have updated the system maps in both the scheduling software and our Ranger system. It's not as effective as we're expecting driver mate to be, but there has been some improvements, and I think one of the reasons why we're able to maintain our on-time performance. We've had staffing improvements, meaning that the driver recruitment and retention has improved, replacement of certain staff personnel that have made a very strong and positive improvement in operations. In the last 12 months, we've added 2 additional premium on-demand providers. Many of you are familiar with Transportation Plus. We also now have UServe and Carepool. I know you've heard me mention them many times, but that's a huge improvement as far as availability to people with mobility certification. And we should be awarding the South Zone contract next week. Quick reminder, it went out for RFP this winter, and the contract is now being awarded sometime next month. So yay on that. When it comes to customer service improvements, so moving on to slide 15, we have transitioned all complaint investigations to our department here, MMSC. It was in the provider's hands. It's now within house. We're double checking all investigations. We're getting thorough, very accurate. And I think that we're seeing a positive impact on service because of that. It was not an easy transition. There were wait times during that, so I want to thank you all for your patience during that. We have replaced the Metro Mobility ID equipment for you that were walking around with a little white spot on your face. That is now corrected. It took quite some time. It was a very difficult system to replace, very complex with technology, and we had a lot of technical issues during that process. Our call center volumes have decreased 3.4%. I personally believe it's out of excellent customer service and conflict resolution. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but in 2025, we took over 1.3 million calls between the 4 call centers, the high volume. We've also noticed a significant improvement with hold times and abandoned calls. Abandoned calls have decreased by 28%. We're not looking at the people that hear how long they have to wait for, like they've got a 5-minute wait and they hang up. We're talking about anybody that's been on the phone for at least 30 seconds on through until the phone is answered, or anytime after that. And that has significantly reduced, which shows that we've improved our staffing, we've improved our response time, and the hold times aren't as long, hopefully getting to people quicker and more effectively and efficiently. Again, staffing improvements. So that was very down, dirty, and fast. I'm not sure, do we still have time for a question? Wow, we did that really fast, didn't we?
You did that really fast.
I didn't even know I could talk that fast, so thank you for putting up with me, everybody.
Other questions or comments from folks online? Ken or Chris?
Yes, this is Ken. Thank you, Julie, very much for that quick and dirty, but perfectly well done. Much appreciated. I do have one request that I'd like you to consider. At some point in the future, I would really like to have a recap of our premium on-demand service statistics, number of calls, number of complaints, whatever information is gathered. I think that would help us understand our entire process a little bit better. And so I'd like to suggest that as a future item on our agenda at some point when you, quote, have time, unquote.
Ken, would it be okay if I asked you one question? When you're talking about the recap, are you talking about providing the information for the premium providers, or are we talking raw data on their performance?
The raw data on their performance. So we have some indication whether or not the premium on demand program is really being efficient, helping, or is it causing more problems than we understand? So just some general data that gives us a better view. Right now, we have no idea how many premium on demand rides are being taken in any given month. I think just having some data would be helpful.
Yeah, we can do that. I can do that for you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You said that the driver mate begins this week. Is that the same thing as that trapeze or whatever that is?
It still connects up to trapeze, but what it's using is it's utilizing like Google Maps instead of our current system map. So it'll have construction information, congestion information, things that aren't currently being fed into that routing, and hopefully helping us to be far more efficient and effective with routing as well.
Okay.
So yeah, we're really excited about this.
What does it do? Like if I'm on the bus with my PCA, we only have a short period of time together, but we have to go shopping. When we're trying to get to our destination, we got rides coming in or being added to the system, and then that shortens our time to do shopping.
There's a couple of different ways that you can approach that. One, you can use an appointment time so that you arrive at the store when you want to begin your shopping, so you know you're not going to miss your return ride.
Okay.
And I don't know the distance of the trip, time of day, all of that significantly impacts the number of riders that we're going to be picking up and dropping off along the way. So I don't know if I can give you a clear answer
Okay.
to the other portion of it. Yeah, appointment time might work really well for that.
Yeah, okay. I'll see what I can do.
Heidi, go ahead.
Well, my question is, are you going to put this out? Because I remember a while back you, it might have been before,
No, you're fine. I'm going to keep talking.
Okay, before you came, I think it was, and it was brought up that we were going to use Google Maps or whatever, and with the new stuff that you're putting in, are you going to put out a press release or talk about it? Because we remember in the past, we were told that some new items were coming to the trapeze, but it never really came about, and people are still not happy with that trapeze thing. They want to throw it out the window.
Well, I'll tell you what, if we switch to another system, they may be even more. It is one of the most effective out in the market right now, and I've worked with so many of them. It is incredibly effective over all of the, especially anything that is like a self-scheduling system, systems that work similar to Uber. The trapeze system is far more elegant and allowing us to be able to make it more efficient, higher, what we call it productivity, okay? On other systems, you're lucky to hit maybe a 1.1, 1.2. In this system, we can hit a 1.4, 1.5, 1.3, depending on the area, the distances, time of day. So that productivity, it really is an effective system. And I know you're frustrated with it, but I think if we travel to other metropolitan areas, you would see how well we really do here in Minneapolis. I think that we have done such a good job in the past and that we continue to try to strive for improvement, that our expectations are higher here in the metropolitan area. Did that answer your question or no, Heidi?
It's just that you're adding, because I remember in the past we were going to go to Google Maps, and we haven't heard anything. We're still using the
That's the driver mate that was supposed to that will be working off of the Google Maps. Like I said, they've been talking about it since I started. And then the install date got pushed into December. It was supposed to be last summer, then pushed into the fall, then pushed into December. There have been a lot of supply and technical issues to overcome in order to make it work for our entire system. The last thing we want to do is transfer Metro Mobility over to it and have it not work properly.
Okay.
There are too many clients that will be affected by that. So we've rolled it out to TransitLink. We figured out a majority of the technological issues. So then we rolled it out to Metro Move. Both those systems are now using it. We've identified any issues that they've had. We've been able to correct them. So now we feel confident that it's time to start moving that into Metro Mobility without a negative impact on our service, but to only have a positive impact on our service.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to ask is, if we're going to do the taxi thing or get any data from that, can we also talk about, because I wouldn't want like Ken's dog to be in some of those vehicles, because they're not very clean, and safe and stuff. The taxi I take, because it takes cash, that's T+. So how do we talk about that in the complaint department or take it seriously? Because I've seen some vehicles that would even if you dressed up really nice, how do we talk about safety? Because I know Uber and Lyft had gotten some bad raps and Minnesota took it very seriously. So how do we do that for the disabled?
You have to bear in mind that when you ride Metro Mobility, those are your expectations. Those are our expectations.
Okay.
When you select to use an outside vendor, even though we might be comping their rate, you're accepting their service as they provide it, just like you would if you called the taxi company independently.
Okay.
I would suggest things such as that can go directly through their complaint lines. We take and follow up with any customer issues if you haven't been treated right, if there are fare issues, but bear in mind, you're also accepting the fares that they dictate because they're their own business. If rates are going up, their rates are going to go up. That's not affected by That's not something that we can regulate. You're choosing to use an outside service. We're just simply helping to supplement the cost of that to allow you that opportunity.
Okay. No, I was just wondering how that would work, because people have tried calling you and say, hey, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I think they look at it as an extension of Metro Mobility instead of they're choosing to use another company other than Metro Mobility, and we'll help subsidize the cost of that.
So when we redo the website, can we talk a little bit about that, or add a little blurb, the difference, because people, you know.
Yep, that's easy to do.
Yeah, okay.
We're at
Awesome.
time.
Thank you.
And I still want to give members and the public a chance to comment. Thank you very much, Julie. We appreciate that. Are there any members of the public who'd like to comment? Seeing none, are there any members who are on this committee that would like to comment? Take it away, Claudia.
Somewhere along the future, I'd like to see something that is available for folks who cannot take city bus, that can do a same-day trip for an emergency. Running into this many times lately about folks who cannot get accessible transportation. And they call Uber, they call Lyft, and nothing's available. So if there's something that can be available for folks on emergency rides, it'd be great, because Metro's packed.
Yep.
And if I just may add to that, that was part of the purpose of us bringing on these premium providers so that they take same day. And another reason that we added 2 more to it is because the demand is very, very high.
Yep.
But you're right, just like any other service there, whether or not they have the availability of drivers.
Yep.
But they do take same day rides.
Yep. Every time you call them, they go, nothing's available until after 4 o'clock.
Because that's when their drivers start working who have the accessible vehicles. Yeah, that is something that we can chat offline if you want to about that. That's something that the state is and Metro Transit is trying to improve. The fact that there just aren't wheelchair accessible vehicles available to provide rides, even if these transportation companies exist. So we just need to increase the amount of wheelchair accessible vehicles that are out there providing rides on demand. Again, on demand rides, not plan ahead rides. Any other member comments?
No.
All right, then we're adjourned. Thank you all.
Hey, David.